recorded live.
Hey, this is Mike. It's Old Religion Dystopia, Knowing versus Belief. I'm going to have Dustin on again here. We decided, as usual, last moment type of thing to do a show. It seems to be the par for course. He's a busy guy. Yeah, tomorrow I've got Jose Barrera on again. That'd be cool. And the next week, another episode with MK Davis. And we're going to have a good time talking about all sorts of things. So, yeah, I was listening to Dustin's recent interviews with his experience and, with the Bigfoot phenomenon, if you want to call it that, and then the potential spiritual, paranormal connections. And I just wanted to talk about it and just see, how he sees about things and to see if there's any kind of connection. Because I noticed that, a lot of people who have these kind of experiences, they all seem to be part of their lives, whether it's the paranormal or then seeing, the big guy in the forest or whatever it may be. And then with my own personal experience with this journey so far, and I'm seeing interesting connections myself, that something's going on that's deeper than people will recognize. I'm seeing imagery. I plan on doing some art sketches of the things I'm seeing in these videos, for better or worse, and hopefully I realize it. I hope people realize I'm not, against them, or I just want to know the truth, wherever it leads. And so if it drives away people or causes people not to be too interested or not want to talk to me, if I ask them questions about their perspective, their paradigm as far as understanding of the world, and that's, they find it offensive, I don't mean to be that way. So I just want to know the truth. So. Yeah, so, for those who listen to this, please go to the new YouTube channel. If you feel like it, subscribe. If not, don't worry about it. Just check it out. Pass it on to people. Don't forget TalkShoe. Don't forget to click follow so that I know who's out there. With that, hey, Dustin. Sounds like you got a busy day recovering from some sore ribs, man.
Yeah, I'm turning into a old man.
I understand. When I was your age, I had a terrible back problem. I discovered a lot of guys had that problem too, and I think it's, if you're not having enough physical activity at your age, you're going to feel it. So if you're doing a lot of sitting around and stuff like that, you're really going to feel it. It puts a lot of stress on you. So I noticed that when I was in school, and I was also, one of the things I did was a security guard when I was in college, in third shift, so that I could do my homework and all that, Wasn't really interested in wearing the polyester cheap suit, but, and the badge, but I was more interested in just, I needed money and I needed also to study. So it was the best combination for me at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's definitely the truth. I mean, my whole life I've done physical jobs, roofing, landscaping. Went to trade school and became a welder. But I have real bad issues with dislocations in my shoulders from football and then MMA. I thought I was a tough guy and started doing that stuff, and now I have the easiest physical job I've ever had in my life, but it is by far the hardest job I've ever had in my life. And, I rolled out of bed and somehow popped a rib out of place. So I've been dealing with that for the last couple of days.
Huh. Hey, what does the MMA stand for?
Mixed martial arts. It's like the cage fighting stuff, but it was on a small level. I trained for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that, and had a couple more dislocations and learned really quick that my shoulders were not going to be able to keep up. So,
Well, it's interesting. My brother had his own dojo, and he trained the first Shamrock. And in his dojo, he had martial arts experts. My brother's gasoline expertise was boxing and wrestling. That's taught grappling and all that to the kids.
yeah,
He had to give it up because he ended up getting Lyme disease, very similar to what I got. It was just MS. So I have my theories about what happened to us. So, but that's just for another story. My son just started karate. So
that's interesting. It's funny. I remember as a kid wanting to be in karate, and I went to a tryout they had at actually our school, and they brought all the kids in their dojo, and you can go down and try it out. And I don't know why I'm telling this, but I was probably in kindergarten or first grade. I mean, I was a little kid, and my older brother was there, and we were doing this thing called a duck walk, and it's where you basically squat down and walk, and we were going around the gym, and my legs were burning, and I was a little kid, and I started crying, and so my mom comes out and picks me up, and then my older brother comes out and takes me out of her arms and puts me back down on the gym floor, telling me quit being a sissy. But that's funny, you remember your first time, and then you hear somebody else's kid. I hope his went out a little bit better than mine did.
We'll see how it goes. You never know. So
has he started?
He started, yeah. I got pictures of him with his new little white belt and all that. And, yeah, he could use some discipline, and he's an active little boy, and he needs some kind of discipline. I know my brother and his sons, my nephews, they got a lot out of it. I mean, by the time they were teenagers in high school, they could basically kick about 99% of anybody's butt.
Yeah.
Whether grown man or not, because they already knew kickboxing, wrestling, grappling, some of the different martial arts, and so they're pretty confident. They played football. I don't know if they ever did very much. I know I played football. My dad he was second All-State for Ohio. He played football. Then my brother, he got a scholarship for football. I didn't get any of that. I stopped growing, but I did win a couple championships where they didn't. So
yeah.
What position did you play?
Well, I was a middle linebacker. When I was younger, I was a quarterback. My brother was a stud quarterback. Broke the records in the high school and all that good stuff. And so
a lot of pressure, isn't it, man? It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I hit somebody. I was always a nice kid, I guess you'd say. I didn't have a mean streak in me. And so, if we weren't involved with the play, when it came to blocking or whatever, I was relatively nice. And I remember my coach came over and grabbed me by my face mask and told me that I need to hit somebody. I need to get angry. And if I don't hit somebody every play, I'm going to be doing up-downs during the next week of practice. And so I hit this kid, and I just became addicted to it. So defense was for me, middle linebacker.
Middle linebacker and defensive end. But my eyesight was terrible, so it got worse as I got older in high school. But anyways, I wasn't really interested. I was only playing for my dad, his expectation,
Yep.
And I wanted to be a musician. So after my sophomore year, I just quit and joined the orchestra and learned how to play bass. So, and I'm glad I did it because football was not going to be me. And I stopped growing. I'm only like 5'9.5". Everyone else is 6 foot or bigger. So it's like, football is really for guys who are 6 foot to 6'2" type of size. You know what I mean? I was just too small. I was never going to get any bigger.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. Although I got, it's part of our culture, so I got to pay attention a little bit. Not much.
Yeah.
I actually pay attention to other things these days. So, anyways, Yeah, let's talk a little bit about you. I see that with your show. Just a reminder, the name of my show is Old Religion Dystopia, and my name is.
Sorry, man.
Oh, that's okay. You're busy in your own world talking about your own thing, so I wasn't important. So, yeah, if you can't figure out how to mirror the shows we did, that's another way to try to get it on your show if you want. Because we did do an excellent interview, I thought.
Yes, no, I agree.
And Mark Zasky said so too. And Mark Zasky says, he's like, I really like talking to you, Mike. You really ask questions, so.
Yep.
They make you think, you know what I mean? Instead of
Absolutely.
regurgitating the bio or what somebody else said in another show or interview. So, anyways, you're going through this kind of interesting phase in your life, and things are happening, and for better or worse. You had this personal experience a few years ago with the hairy fella and what he's did, and then you have the paranormal, spiritual side of things. I believe there is such a thing as the spiritual side of things. I think it's a rough balance going down this road because you have to develop your critical thinking skills. You got to ask the questions, but at the same token, there's just things that happen that will never be explained based on our critical thinking, and that we have to, as MK Ultra. I teased him about that the other day too. MK Ultra. You don't have any relationship to MK Ultra, do you? But anyways, that there are things in our lives that that we have to just chalk up as they're real experiences, and I don't have an explanation for it. And it seems like nobody else does. Or maybe they do. The danger in all this that I discover is that listening to other people's opinions about it, it's okay, but remember, it's an opinion. And a lot of these supernatural experiences, we don't have solid information or solid answers for it. And when we look at the sources, the people that claim to be in authority, whether it's the priests of different religions or even the guys who are really involved in, say, the paranormal field and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're human beings too, just like all the rest of us, full of faults and a head full of misinformation and disinformation. So, where do we go with all that? The biggest thing is to be as humble as possible, be as honest. This is what I think. And not to put our religious bents and our tendencies and what we've learned in the past is the end-all, be-all. So looking at that, I noticed that you've had some pretty interesting supernatural, weird experiences. And I'd like to ask you the question, when did you think all this started happening to you as far as your sixth sense being kind of, awoken and things being a little bit different than you thought? Well, do you think also in any of your old habits, like I know, like for me, when I was in my 30s and I was doing my music and I started, doing drugs, like, the biggest thing was drinking heavily, and then shrooms or pot, and I did end up seeing some things that were, but looking back, they weren't real. They were, but I've also seen things prior and afterwards that cannot be explained, and so how can I blame the drugs per se? I can't. But I know it does make a difference. So I want to know what your side of things is. How's things started manifesting in your life?
Well, so to the first question, the whole sixth sense thing. My dad always says there's two types of children in this world. There's the child that you say, don't touch that oven, it's hot, and they won't ever touch it. And then you have the one that you say, don't touch that oven, it's hot, and they'll dang near burn their arm off until they realize I shouldn't touch that, it's hot. And that's me. I'm the latter of the two. I always growing up, I'm from a religious family. I wouldn't say religious, but a very faithful family. Church 3 times a week. Pentecostal family. And so when it comes to being in the presence of something, whether you want to call that God or just music, you know when you hear music or you hear somebody sing and you get that tingling feeling, and it doesn't matter if you were paying attention or not. When they hit that note, all of a sudden it's like you get the chills down your spine. I've been around that a lot, being a Pentecostal, being raised in a Pentecostal family. Church is a powerful thing. I went to church with friends, and it was you sit, you listen, you kneel, it was like rituals, and it was different than my church. My church, it was, if it was a good night of church, you were on the floor crying, shaking, and if it was a bad night, then nothing happened. So I don't think I ever had like a special gift, like I can feel things. But whenever I moved into that house with Bruce, I didn't believe them at all. And even his parents told me that stuff was going on, and I didn't believe them. It took me getting almost slapped in the face with it, just like with my Bigfoot encounter, to finally open my eyes. It's real easy to point a finger and laugh at people, because you know what you know, and what they're saying doesn't fit in your reality, and so they're a fool. And that's the kind of young man that I was growing to be. And I think moving into that house and experiencing things that I saw with my own two eyes, and I know broke the laws of physics, because things were moving, being thrown. The running upstairs, the floors were reacting to something that wasn't there, because I could hear it. I could hear whenever it would jump and do the loud booms, I could hear the floors creak. So something is hitting it, but there's nothing there. So it's it took me moving into that house to get the blindfold ripped off of my face for me to see, because I was so, just like my dad says, I'll burn off my arms before I realize an oven's hot and I shouldn't touch it. I'm kind of stubborn. So what was your second question?
I don't remember. I'm already on to another question. So, the question was, when did you actually start? Was it? But I think you pretty much answered it. It was living in that house that you.
Moving into the house. I mean, in church, I felt and experienced things that I couldn't explain, which those are stories for a different time. But I always contributed that to God or the Holy Spirit. So I guess it kind of fits in the same bubble. But until I moved into that house, did I really understand and start believing, or not believing, but knowing, because I saw with my own two eyes.
Right. Well, one of the things is being exposed to the Pentecostal church and the things that go on. There are those who suggest that what's going on in the Pentecostal church is an invitation in some way to become, some would dare say, demon possessed, or they talk about the Kundalini, and that you see a lot of these guys that are pretending to be healers, really aren't, but are causing people to be swept over by some kind of demon possession. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. From my observations on video and that kind of thing, and my chance to be in a Pentecostal church, when I say in, I only went to one service. That was enough for me. As wonderful of people they are. Actually, one of my good friends, Alexi, that I didn't know until I moved into this place, who lives upstairs above me, he's a Pentecostal, and he's a nice guy. He has good intentions. But I just wonder, if a lot of this, my own personal experience, I was raised a Mormon, but I think that Mormon kind of like makes you actually more spiritually dead than spiritually alive. And what do I mean by that? Well, you just seem to be more numb to these sort of things because you're conditioned in such a religion to not question the narrative that's being told to you, that Joseph Smith is a prophet and all that kind of stuff, and that they have the holy text and they have the answer. So you kind of go through life, and then you start having you start developing your own path, and that's when a lot of times people start experiencing things once they leave the nest, if you will, or start to experiencing going outside of the nest and interacting with people. So a question that I would raise to you is, do you feel that when you were in this house that somebody brought this entity with them or spiritual experience? And if so, is there anything that they were doing in particular that brought it in?
So even before I moved in, it was there. They told me stories about it, but from what everyone who lived in the house before me said, that for some reason when I moved in, the activity increased, fourfold. That for some reason it was it seemed like when I moved in, things got worse and things happened more often. We ended up finding out that the landlord's father committed suicide in that house. I found out through my uncle, who was a police officer. During one Thanksgiving, I was talking to him about the house, and he's like, I know exactly where that's at. Whenever I first joined the police force, I had a case there, and so I went back home and told my buddy Bruce, and he said, well, yes, they're friends with the landlords. And he said, well, her father was that person, and we just had never talked about that before. When I moved into the house, I had just had my ex, and I split up, and it was kind of on, it was on bad terms. And so I was not in a good place. I think I was 20 years old, something, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. But I don't know. It was there before I moved in. I don't know if it was the spirit of the old man or something that drove him to kill himself. I don't know. But the only way I can answer it is the people who live there believe that when I moved in, the activity increased.
So the activity increased, and because you moved in. Can you expand on that a little more? I mean, what do you mean you moved in? When you moved in and increased, I guess what the question I have is because there's like going back to your own roots and foundation and that kind of stuff. Well, this is one of my experiences that I've had. Now, as my research with the Bible, and then my research in calling out the name of the Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ. I'm not a religious man at all. There was a time I was pretty fanatical, but as time's gone on, I've started reading and studying the Bible. There's a lot of things to be said about it, whether or not it's how accurate it is. But at the same token, I've also had the experience that when things are kind of getting kind of weird, as far as things around me, that calling out the name of the Lord, that things would stop and have stopped. So I have this kind of mixed bag of understanding about the whole thing. So, and I was just wondering, well, first of all, it sounds to me like you had roots in Christianity, whatever version it was. Did the other people have that? And if they didn't, maybe it could have been the case that because you had the potential power to actually stop it, that it might have said,
Hey, Dad.
Hey, buddy.
I made a paintbrush, please.
You need a paintbrush. Uh-oh, we're in trouble now. Anyways, yeah, could it be that your experience in the Pentecostal church kind of contributed to it? Have you thought about that?
No, I've never thought about exactly like that, but the people in the house, whenever I would go up and eat like with him and his parents, because they had a nightly ritual that his daughter would go up and eat every night with his parents. His mother would cook dinner for everybody, and the nights that I would go up and do that, we say grace before we ate, but when it comes to Bruce and his daughter Stephanie, no, they didn't grow up with a strong religious background. So I mean, I would say no. I probably would have been the only one. I grew up playing drums in my church and all that kind of stuff, but I wasn't involved with the church whenever I moved in there. And I mean, I can say that from when I moved in to the next 4 years of my life were the worst 4 years of my life by far. And over the last 3 years, I've made, I think, tremendous push forward in my life and getting back on track. And I don't want to go into the details of that, but I'll just say that I now believe, and I'm not blaming my mistakes on this entity or whatever this thing was, but I will say that was the start of my downhill fall, and I had a long ways to go after I left that house, but I finally came to a place where I basically hit so many rock bottoms that I didn't have anywhere else to go but up, and I started moving in that direction, and my life is a lot better than it was since I've lived in that house.
Okay. Well, yeah. And by the way, I'm not saying that what I said is absolute truth at all, because you hear all these different things, and if you're going to be talking about this stuff, there are going to be people that are going to attack you and say, "Well, it's because you're not close enough to your God," and all this kind of stuff. So
that's fine. I mean, they can.
But my experience has been the closer you try to reach out to your Creator, the more things kind of get crazy, spiritually.
Yeah.
And life-wise, and so, and interactions with people, and it starts to get much more tense and weird. So there is something going on, and you don't have to say anything or do anything. It's going to happen anyways, one way or the other, because there seems to be many different forces against us, with it, whether it's the spiritual or temporal or each other. So it seems to be very difficult for us to be patient with each other and allow each other to be honest and let each other to go through whatever experience it is you're going through. It's real easy to just chalk things up as, well, it's because of this, it's your fault. Well, many of the things that we experience in life really they're not our fault at all. They're circumstantial, and what I mean by that is a better way to say that would be destined. You're destined to experience the things that you're going to have. That's going to happen to you, and there's very little that can be done about that except just to plow through it, and you know what I mean, embrace it, and try to grow from it and come out the other side a better person. And so you say that life has been a lot better since you've been out of the house, and then all of a sudden now, the Bigfoot experiences, that happened after you got out of the house, right?
Correct, yeah. So once I moved out of the house, I think I lived there for 2 years. Definitely a year, but I wouldn't say over 2.5. I can't remember exactly, but when I moved out of the house, I continued on that downward slope for a while, and then I started to, my first attempt at turning my life around, and at the time I was living with my mother, and that's when the Bigfoot encounters happened. So it was a couple of years, a couple of years after I moved out of that house.
So do you think there might be any connection between the two at all? I mean, what are your feelings about it at this point? Or what are, I mean, I'm not suggesting that there is. I'm just wondering if there could possibly be that whatever happened to you in that house, and that all of a sudden it's made more of these things become, or your experience with the Bigfoot become more real or potential to be more real.
It's very possible. I don't know what these things are, but in my personal opinion, I don't think that there's a connection. And again, there could be, but personally, I do believe that Bigfoot, whatever type is around you, they're an animal. Now, I will say one thing that is very close to my experiences with paranormal is that a sense of torment you get from it. You know, if you're a researcher and you're going out and you're looking for Bigfoot and you have an experience, even if it's a scary one, you're going to be scared, you're going to go back, but that's what you're doing. You're looking for that. Now, when it's at your house and you don't want it, you never went looking for it, but it's there, you feel a sense of torment, just like with the paranormal stuff at the previous house. And another thing that I'll say is it did feel like that the Bigfoot activity 100% was geared towards me. Now, I have a theory that I believe that when these things know that they're there, it's a totally different game. They do hide still, and keep some of their traits to their species, but at the same time, they do more things, and it was geared towards me, 100%, and they reacted. They did many things that it was 100% directed at me, that if I wasn't there, it wouldn't have happened, or nobody would have heard it or seen it.
That just happened. So you have this kind of like a lineage, a timeline of the experiences, and I just wonder, as time goes on, there will be more of a blending of the two. I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking. I'm grabbing at straws to try to understand your experiences and my own experiences, and why you, and others like you, get a chance to actually see, experience, for better or worse, the Bigfoot, and why others don't. And I always kind of consider myself to be pretty observant in nature, more so than most. Probably is why most people didn't want to, go on nature walk with me, because I didn't want to talk. I wanted to take it slow and observe, because you never know. Maybe you'll catch a baby hognose snake on the trail, or see a deer, or you might see this or that if you just slow down enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's who I always have been. I mean, I've always been kind of gravitated toward nature, that kind of thing. So, and so I just wondering your experience and others, what their experience is, and if there's any connection between the two. I guess it's kind of like being a researcher in a way, Well, it is being a researcher.
Yeah.
To the best of our ability, try to understand this phenomenon. You ever asked a question, why me?
Yes.
And
yes.
Have you found the answer yet to that?
No, I have not. I wish, it's difficult, because I'm a person. If you ask any of my friends or family members, and let's say they barge in the door and something happened to them at the gas station, I'm the guy that sounds like an interrogator because I ask so many questions about what did they say, how did they say it, what was their body language like, and I'll stand up. I'm like, were they more like this or were they more like this? Because I have to, in my mind, I have to paint a picture. Because if I paint the picture good enough, then I can see things that maybe other people can't, such as the intent, or if let's say I had a buddy that went to the gas station and the guy was, trying to start a fight with him. I'll ask a small detail because in my head I'm judging, would he really have swung, or was he just trying to look big and bad, or was he set out to hurt somebody and you just avoid it? Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but that's how I am. So to me, when I make a decision on something, I believe it 100%. There's no question in my mind. Now, if I hear a story from somebody that I don't believe, it's because of the small details I get from them. And so I just won't have nothing to do with it. I'm not going to call him a liar. I'm just not, I've made up my mind. And so in my life, when you have that and when you experience something for yourself with your own eyes that is 100% undeniable, could not have happened, but you saw it, and you saw small things that help prove to you that you're not losing your mind, I didn't know what to do with it. And me, I guess you would say I'm kind of a type A personality. The friends that I have are like family members to me. And there's people out there's plenty of people that hate me, but we don't have nothing to do with each other. I'm just that kind of a personality type, I guess. It's either you like me and we're like family, or you don't like me and we just don't have anything to do with each other. There's not much, in between there. So when I saw these things, I had to, I don't know, I guess I felt a responsibility or a desire to tell it, because I think people will believe me. Now, there are people out there, and I've dealt with a couple trolls, on my YouTube channel trying to get my page taken down. But that's okay. That's going to happen. But the people that subscribe to my channel and listen to me, I think they listen because they believe me. I had a SWAT team member on. He's known me literally my entire life. And I popped the question on him at the very end. I said, did you believe me whenever I told you and started telling people about my Bigfoot encounter? And he is a lot like me. We're very close to the same personality type. And he said, no, I didn't. But what I did believe is that you saw something because it's changed you. You're a different person. And, a lot of people may have edited that out of their show, but I kept it in there because I'm trying to establish a sense of trust with my listeners, and that if I bring them something, then they know that it's got my stamp of approval on it. And again, there's always going to be people out there, but I'm sorry, I kind of took us off track there. But to get back to your question, it's been difficult to understand why these things have happened to me, but since they have, I had one of two things to do with it: suppress it and hide it and never speak about it. But I couldn't do that. I did that, and it didn't work for me. I had to talk about it. So no, I don't know why any of this has happened. I hope that it's done happening to me. I hope I don't experience a dogman or an alien encounter, over the next couple of years. God, I hope that doesn't happen. But I wish it wouldn't have happened. I can tell you that. Well, I do and I don't.
Right. Well, tell us more about the I do.
I do because it's it's changed me. I think it's going to make me a better man. I don't think I'm a good man, but that's what I'm striving for is to be a good man. You know, I had a grandfather that was, you know, in a small town. He had over 500 people at his funeral. He was an honest man, and that was, you know, so that's what I strive for. I strive to be like him in that way. And I think that before my Bigfoot or my paranormal, I I turned my nose up at people, not because I thought I was better than them, but because I thought, you know, if somebody told me that they'd seen an alien, instantly, without hearing anything from them, in my mind, I checked them off and I put them over on the crazy list of people I can't trust when they say something. Uh, since my encounters, totally different. I will, even if I don't believe somebody's encounter, I'm not going to tell them that they didn't see what they saw because I've been told that. I've been told by people that trust me. You know, if they had to pick somebody to go through the end of the world with, I would be on their list. And these same people told me that I didn't see what I saw. So it's opened my eyes and my mind, and it's caused me to question my reality, which is very uncomfortable and it is not pleasant to do. But once you do it, you start seeing that you can't just point a finger at somebody because it doesn't match with what you were taught. You have to dig into it and decide for yourself, is this person telling the truth? And then once you believe that, it opens up a new and scary world that you have to choose to either step out and face and get involved or shut that door forever and ignore it, which most people do because it's uncomfortable.
Right. Well, I imagine so. I mean, it's uncomfortable for you, and it's uncomfortable for the person hearing it too, because it's confusing. Because it's like, well, if you never had that experience, that you know, what do I do? Do I say this person's being honest to me or not? You know, how do I determine that? And based on what the information that's been passed to most of us through public school system, churches, television, etc., that you're pretty much conditioned to believe that it's not real, that it's all just fables and fairy tales, and then the stuff that
Absolutely.
you see on the television, even the stuff like the ghost hunter stuff and all these different people that do paranormal stuff, or even the Bigfoot stuff, and there's no resolution, nothing final, nothing definitive, and so the experiences that you and others are having, they are using that to as a way of manipulating the majority of us into just saying, oh well, it's all nonsense. It's all fables. That person must be crazy. Must need to go see a shrink, and or go to the priest or whatever. And none of these men or women have the answers for you. This is something that a man has to go inwardly and say, did I experience this stuff? Yes or no? And I have to make the determination myself, and regardless of the consequences. And that is the pursuit of truth. It's always going to be that way, where the vast majority are going to make fun of you and laugh at you. Just because, well, they enjoy watching their shadows on the wall of their cave, and they're comforted with that. They're comforted by that, and they don't want to you know, walk outside the cave and see the world for themselves. So the world is much deeper and more mysterious than we like to admit, and it doesn't fit in most people's paradigms one way or the other. So, what is, you know, why do you experience the way why you're experiencing why you experience it? Somebody somewhere made you a little more open-minded and open-hearted to experience these things, and the question, I guess, it comes to, why this overwhelming dread. How much of it is it real, and how much of it is because of being improperly taught about these things that we experience the dread and the fear. I was talking to somebody, well, Jose Barrera, in the last show we did. We're doing a little series on it, about how the use of magic and sorcery, use of words, are used to influence us and guide us and hurt us in our lives. As bad as the experiences may be for you, as you had at the house or with the Bigfoots, can you see positive things that come from it as well? And if so, what are they?
Me opening my eyes, seeing the world for how it really is. During the experiences, okay, so I'm going to separate them to answer this question. The paranormal experiences, no, I don't think there was anything good that came from it other than opening my eyes to that stuff being real and knowing that it was real, because that was just, well, just to tell you, since I didn't know if I was ever going to share that on my show. I
Sure.
didn't want to, but I want my show to be mainly a Bigfoot podcast, but I also know that these other things exist. And I mean, just like UFOs, the SWAT team member and the very first guest I had on, I'm going to be having another show on, because both of them had encounters with UFOs. And like the SWAT team member, I know people hearing him, they automatically get a little bit more credit in people's minds, because of the work he does, and you can just tell he's a very straightforward guy. But I wanted to focus on, the suffering from seeing cryptids, and people see these other things, and sometimes, just like in church or whatever, it's hard to be that first person to stand up, but once you do, it's a lot easier for the rest to follow. And so that's what drove me to share that encounter. But the reason I say it was pretty much all negative, other than open my eyes to paranormal activity being a very real thing and knowing that, is that ever since I recorded that show with Bruce, every single night, I'm not kidding you, every single night since then so far, at night, I get down and I say a prayer, and before I fall asleep, I have high anxiety, like I'm expecting something to happen, because I've talked about it. I went several years not speaking about that and talking about it, and me and Bruce both even said it on the show. There's baggage that comes with it. It's not a good thing. It's painful. And even though it's done with, there's still a fear that it might come back. And every night since then, and I'll do it again tonight, and I hope it goes away soon and I stop, because it's been a long time that, I've feared that kind of fear, you know what I mean? And I still, whenever I go to my mother's and stay with my nephew, the fear of what's on that property is always there. But when I leave, I've gotten to a point now to where it doesn't bother me in my own bed. But now, after talking about this, it's definitely bothered me. So with the paranormal stuff, almost all the way a negative. It's been a negative in my life. But the Bigfoot, it's about 50-50. For the first couple of years, it was 100% negative. There was nothing good about it, because it took away hunting, it took away shooting, it took away walking through the woods. It even took away from my nephew, teaching him, the skills I've learned, how to hunt, how to shoot. I always say that there's probably a better way to say this, but it rapes me of my innocence of the woods. I looked at the woods as my safe haven. That, if anything ever happened, I could live out there, and I would love it. It was my getaway, my zen time or whatever you want to call it. I loved it. Even if there would be days. I'm a big squirrel hunter. Squirrel is my favorite game meat, and I use my youth model single shot 410 because once you get to where you're good at it, you go back to the basics and you try to make it as difficult on yourself as possible, but still being a quick clean death to the animal. So I use a single shot 410, and I used to just go out with that little 410 and go. And some days I wouldn't shoot at a squirrel. I would just enjoy walking and being in the woods, and that got taken from me, and still to this day I can't do that. I can't go out by myself. I can't go out before the sun comes up, or when the sun goes down. If it's dark, I can't go out, and it's even difficult for me to go out with other people that I trust. So that, and then the torment of living in a home that you have these things going on that you don't know what they are or really what's going on. It's a constant torment of you get done with work and you go home and there's a fear. You would rather sleep in your car in a parking lot than go back to your house because you're tormented. You're in fear every day. It got to a point to where I would sit in the bathroom with a gun just living in fear. I remember my mom opening the door and saying, "Are you okay?" And I had the lights off in the bathroom. I had the gun, and she flips on. She's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Nothing. And nothing happened that night. I felt I was trying to find comfort, and that having a gun on me, is a little bit of comfort. And so for a long time, it was a no. I tried talking about what happened to me. I was met with disbelief, or people just flat out thinking I'm lying, or people laughing, or people thinking I'm crazy. And so you shut up about it. And until I was interviewed on Wes Germer's show was the first time I talked about it and was met with acceptance. And that started me on, I guess, healing from the encounter that I had. Now, the creature didn't come out and attack me, but everything that happened around that property, it impacted me in a very deep and negative way. And now that I've come out, I've started the show, I'm talking to other people. I had an email from somebody tell me, about my paranormal experience, tell me that, hearing my story, they're having almost the exact same things happen, and they just wanted to thank me. So now the Bigfoot encounter, I would say it's a 50-50 because there is a positive side to it now. But if I would have never been able to speak with somebody that truly accepted what I had to say and believed it, I'd still be probably living in that same fear. And I want to help others, and I think that's helping me more than anybody else. I think I'm kind of doing it for a selfish reason because I love hearing other encounters now. I can't get enough of this stuff, but in the long run, I think it's a way for me to help myself get over it. So with the Bigfoot, there's a negative, but there's also a big positive side to it as well.
Yeah, well, things that excuse me, things that are brought up in my mind is fear. I think that I keep hearing fear, and I think I can understand. I mean, I'm not going through the same thing you did, but I know as far as the paranormal activity that I've experienced in my life, a lot of it was I'm not saying it wasn't real. I'm just saying the fear aspect of it I had to conquer and deal with. Just like I imagine you're going to have to deal with it and Bigfoot, and embrace it that it is part of our lives, and not to make it, um, not to allow it, the unknown, to cause us to have uh, enormous amount of fear, to get in the way of our progress. Because as you learn the truth about things, as I have at least, I've noticed that whatever every level, whether it was learning about the Jesuits or learning about Zionism and its influence, and the Jesuits once again, and how the blue bloods in Europe, how they manipulate us, and how you and I actually live in a corporation, and that we are bond slaves traded on the market, and the wars and how they were actually created, fomented, and there comes a point you start putting your trust in God, but then God turns around and it'll make you learn to trust yourself. Put your trust in yourself, that you are the capacity, the ability God given to get through these things, to face them, to deal with them. I mean, and saying that, it doesn't mean I'm going to love having these these spirits messing around with me, or these encounters with Bigfoot, but one can learn how to appreciate it and have a much more deeper insight of life. Anyways, the more you become aware of who you are in your environment, the more you're going to become more your own person, and relying that you have to rely on yourself. So I meant to say realizing that you have to rely on yourself. So there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not being selfish. In fact, one of the things when I first started doing this, 3 years ago, I had a mission. And I was going to convince every single person on the planet that Jesus Christ is the answer. And as time has gone on, I realized that's not my calling or my mission. That my mission is greater than that, but it is to learn and discover the mysteries of this world, and how to deal with it all. And it is scary learning all these things. It's to realize how vulnerable you are, that you're not the center of the universe for real, and I think it's all a growing thing. It's one of those weird things I see. There are some men that love this journey when it comes to Bigfoot and want to see it more and more, and there's others that just fear it fear it more and more, and yet they still want to go do it. And it's almost like a false impression that they're thrill seeking, but I think it's necessary for all of us to be able to to survive the whole package of life, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly. And I see, if you're really going through these stuff, that they are blessings in the long run. I know they will be. Right now, the memories and the fear and all that you have to deal with, but as they are crushed, as you're willing to really face it, the more you become settled with it. And you say, okay, well, this is just the way it is. And there's instead of running from it, embrace it. Does that mean you end up becoming some, John D. and conjuring every demon possible? No. Or that, that you should start, feeding Bigfoot and habituating them so that they can hang out with them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying just embrace it all, You survived it. You survived it all. And you will survive it until the day is chosen for you to no longer be here. So you're surviving it. And I think this is a way that we all survive the reality that we live in is by having the conversations and actually be willing to talk to each other and listen to each other, even if we come from different points of view. We certainly can. The more we do, the more we realize that we have more in common than not in common. Whatever color our skin is, or whatever our personal experiences are. But I think it's one of the things we've been conditioned with is that our personal experiences and our own personal observations, what our eyes tell us, we can't trust. We can't trust our own eyes, and we can't trust our own experience. And that there's something wrong with you, and you need to take some kind of medicine in order to fix the problem.
That's crazy, isn't it? It's you're exactly right. It's funny because you see something, and it's like you've been either programmed or however you want to say it so well that you question what you see. And I get, something falls off the table.
Do you question what you see, or are you questioning yourself? See, that's the issue.
Exactly. Well, so if a glass falls off the table, somebody that goes, "Oh, there's a ghost in the house," well, that's bunk. There are people like that, but when you see something that is impossible, like the laws of physics that could not have just happened, and it did, you question, I still, with my Bigfoot encounter, I still question, did I see that? Did that happen to me? You know what I mean? Because it was so crazy and so out of my realm of thinking that, it's crazy that people, myself included, in this country, or maybe in just this whole entire world, or it could just be this country, have such a reality with such big walls around it that when you see something outside of it, it's not real. It didn't happen. Even though you saw it, what you saw, it didn't happen. And I think a lot of people deal with that. Like in my town alone, the amount of Sasquatch encounters is ridiculous, and we'll never hear 99% of them. I've brought in a few on my show just because I know these people and they trust me. And sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, it's crazy that people think that you would just question your own eyesight,
Well, the thing is, you are questioning your life. Who cares what other people think? So that's part of the journey, is getting to the point where I don't care what you think of me.
Exactly.
In the sense that I want you to like me, but if you think I'm lying when I know I'm not, then so be it. And I have to understand, well, why is that? Well, this could be they've been indoctrinated and conditioned into believing things that, and what they feel is the truth is. And the more and more you put the pieces together, the more you realize how little there actually is as far as whatever narrative that's been pushed on you. That, they don't, the powers that be, whether this realm or from another realm, they don't want you to be who you are, the God-given person that you are. So, and, if people don't like hearing God, then I'm sorry, but, I would suggest that you spend some time in nature and you'll come to realize that none of this could have happened without some kind of creator. So, and whether or not you want to like them or not, that's a whole nother story. But it's it is what it is. So So the thing is dealing with this kind of situation is to be really as upfront about it as possible as you can, and to be willing to, as you discuss the issues, that you're willing to change. And willing to accept things, that maybe, things quite the way I saw them to be, or that they, one way or the other, what I mean, whether they're worse or less than. See, part of the problems what we do is we compare our journey with other people's journeys, and it's a terrible mistake. You have your own journey. I have my own. And That's the way it is, and there's no way of escaping it, no matter how hard we try. Um, Most people do. They spend a lot of time trying to escape it instead of just embracing it. The good, bad, and the ugly, and it is what it is. And so you're on this journey to discover. So, keep it up. And like I said before, I told you, so don't do it for the money. Do it for the the knowledge that you will gain, which is priceless. You can't put a price on it. So, if you need to do a combination of paranormal and Bigfoot, then do it. Do whatever the spirit prompts you to do.
I hope to get a little bit of everything on the show. It's that's I was gonna name my show Sasquatch PTSD, but I didn't want to be put in a box, and I didn't want to put my guest in a box. Does that make any sense? I wanted people who suffered from seeing whatever to be able to come and talk about it on my show. I didn't want it to just be Bigfoot, because there's so many other things out there that we can't explain.
Yeah, and it's the thing is you don't. Yeah, I understand completely about the box and putting yourself in a box and allow others to put you in a box. And heck, if you look at the United Nations emblem, the symbol that they use, it's people all looking at their Tower of Babel, and they all have box heads on. They literally they all have been drawn as box heads, symbolizing what it's really about. Is it the system that we're under? That's exactly what they want you to be as a boxed-in, compartmentalized individual. Take away the individual. They don't even want you to be an individual. This is the threat to the whole power scheme and system, is if you go your own journey, wherever it takes you, that's a bigger threat than anything else that you could throw at them. You could throw, bombs and guns and money or with this or that or the other, but they can deal with that, but they can't deal with you being an individual. It's a heavy price to pay, and are you willing to do it? So crypto is great. I mean, it's like talking with MK. We're talking about xylophenes and did I say that right? No, what is it? The Tasmanian tiger, and that there's a high probability that we have them running around here.
Yeah,
a very, very high probability. There's the video evidence. You look at what they looked like from the old archives in Australia and in zoos, and then you look at what's roaming out there. It's outside of the stripes. It's the same thing. It's a little smaller version. It's just like how the coyote is migrated into my area, and the coyote that lives in Ohio is much smaller than the coyote out west.
Yeah.
There's changes, and so, all these different creatures, and these, like when you talk about Bigfoot, and I hate the name Bigfoot. I somehow I got to work on that too, because I think it kind of it boxes everything in again. There's different types of creatures, different types of locations, different types of. Could there be all cavemen, and could there also be some kind of archaic humanoid, and could also be ape-like things. Yeah, they could be both. There could be multiple things going on here. And why are they not talking about it? Well, in our system that we live under, that they've been practicing very hard the thing called public relations or propaganda. So you have to always be willing to accept the fact there's a high probability that you're being propagandized on half-truths and misleading information. So does that make you paranoid or a conspiracy theorist? No, it's just from the own government documents. That's what their job is. So,
exactly. There's a lot of things that are out there that are obvious in plain sight. This is what they're doing. But even though you have proof, if you say that, people say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. So your opinion or, your facts go out the window.
Right. Well, and we're talking about, we're talking now about our immediate associates, the people that we have daily contact throughout our lives, that are going to do that. So, it's like, well, you can do what the wisdoms of the Native Americans do, and they just don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
Or you can talk about these things, and be, but if you're going to do it, you are going to ostracize yourself, and you are going to cause problems for yourself with other people because they don't want to talk about it, and they think it's a waste of time, and they got to get back to work, type of thing, So that's how they've been indoctrinated. So you have to learn to have compassion for people around you, with the understanding that there's a high probability that you're not going to receive it, that same compassion and understanding. You're just not going to get it. Yeah. So you just have to say, well, that's the way it goes. And if people think I'm nuts or crazy or wasting my time, well, there's a good chance I'm thinking the same thing about them too. So
yeah.
So what do? I'll just try to understand them. So, but it is an interesting journey. It seems to me, from my observations, that there is a paranormal relationship with some of these entities or these different types of what we call Bigfoot generically. Why do I say that? Well, like I said, just when I stop film, and especially when a lot of times where there's something sighted or claimed to be Bigfoot or whatever, I noticed that there's other things in the picture. And I also noticed, too, that the trick of the eyes, our eyes can be tricked in the forest type of thing, on the edge of like a tree line or the edge of a forest where you can see more than meets the eye. So is it because of how the leaves are translated? No, I've seen other photos of people and photos that people aren't talking about that have stuff in it. Are they just anomalies on film, or am I seeing something real? I don't know. I have a tendency to believe that it's more real than I understand. So, and does it make me gullible or that I'm simple-minded because I'm willing to go down these different paths? No, I think I have a stronger knowledge about a lot of things that I never would have had. And I'm less likely now to also be manipulated by other people who say one thing or the other, you know what I mean? They say their point of view is right. If I could see fallacy in their logic, I can see it now, much clearer than I would a few years ago. Yeah. Where a few years ago, I just would have been like, well, you were talking about who you were at one time, where it's like, whatever. This is stupid. You're crazy. I got better things to do with myself. But do I really have better things to do with myself? I don't think so anymore. I think that it's really important to look at all these different facets of our life. And a lot of people are going to tell you no, for whatever reason. But, the fact of the matter is, life's a lot more richer and more interesting because of these experiences. And that's what I give, this whole thing about, can you see the positive in all of this? Well, it does make you a much more interesting person, at least for those who are interested and are willing to give you an open ear, and just hear your point, your story. So your story is much more interesting because of these things. So I think there's a lot of positive in all of it. And I think it's just learning not to be afraid of all of it. And I think that the religion causes that, to be afraid of the unknown. The official narrative from the television and movies and school all tells you to be afraid of it, or just be to be in dismissal about it, and somehow that's going to protect you. But the best thing to do is just to say, that's the way it is. It's what's going on. I don't understand it all. Can I be okay with that? And so. Well, Bud, it looks like we did a pretty good job here. It's been about like an hour or so. Do you want to talk more?
Is there anything else you want to ask or anything?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Part of the problem is I got my son in the background, so it's like,
Oh, that's okay.
So yeah, man, see if you can mirror the shows. You know,
Well,
I know one thing. The first interview that we and I, that you and I did, was pretty good. I thought it was
yeah,
pretty. It was a nice, honest discussion about what you're going through. You know,
it
and meet your.
was. I just wish I could. I've tried. When I pull it up, it will allow me to play it, but not download it. There's no option to download, so I don't know what's going on with that. But um, I I don't know. It's confusing.
You should be able to download it. It is.
Yeah. Well, you said there's a arrow to press to download, and there's not.
Oh no,
Plays.
you're talking about talk shoe. Yeah. Do you have like Adobe or something like that, some MP3 player type of thing? It's something that does can record.
QuickTime, yeah. I mean, I've or Quick Player, whatever it's called on a Mac,
I don't know.
and it'll play it. It just won't record it to allow me to put it somewhere. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to do the YouTube thing.
You know, one of the things I do too, the old school. If push comes to shove, your headset with your mic, you can put that in front of the like a speaker. If you have speakers for your internet,
Yeah.
and just record it that way, and then put it on. That's what. Seriously, this was I used to do it, and sometimes still do. It's just sometimes the audio is really good, and sometimes it's not so good. But that's a way of doing it too. So, and then you record it. You have it on your computer as recorded, and then you can just put it on.
Yeah, I'm gonna mess with it because I really want that on my show there. But I'm gonna try to figure out how to do this mirroring thing on YouTube.
But I thought you didn't you already. Well, maybe you didn't. Did you not record it on your end the first show?
No, I didn't, because I thought we would be able to, just have you send it to me and then we'll be good, because I was running low on hard drive space, so I didn't record it. I recorded this one.
I'll talk to Jose tomorrow about that and see how he does it, because he doesn't have any problem putting it up.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know, man. It's that first one's really. I really like that interview, and I really want it on there, so I'm gonna try to mess with it. So you said on YouTube we can mirror it, so it puts it on my channel, but it's still your video. Is that how that works?
Yeah, well, you'll still get views and all that kind of stuff. It's just coming, yeah.
So what are the steps to doing that?
What do you do?
Well, I'll look it up.
Well, let's just
see if I can find it.
Let's see. Settings, subtitles close, theater mode. No, I don't know. I don't do it. But this might force me to learn how to do something too, because I don't really do that.
Yeah.
But somehow because the guys are doing it all the time, you find all sorts of channels where they're playing other people's recordings, and so. I'll tell you what. I'll look into it, and if I have some answers, I'll call you back. So.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for spending an hour or so with me. So.
All right, Mike. We'll holler at you later.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Hey, kiddo, how was the hill? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, that ripping pow induces spontaneous joy.
The Icon Pass lets you do you at 50 destinations worldwide from $249 adult. Drop in for next winter now and save at iconpass.com.
If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind.
Take me there. I won't break.